I think that every single person, every single woman, man, we all have a body, we all have a spirit, we all have a mind. We all want health, a healthy place to live. But I think that one of the problems is the ignorance. So I don't think that the people doesn't want to change. I think the people want to change but don't know how.
The 1996 Habitat Conference in Istanbul, Turkey, served as the official inauguration and unveiling of the Global Ecovillage Network, an organization dedicated to providing positive solutions for many of the problems facing our world today. The culmination of several years of planning by the Gaia Trust and international eco-village activists, the Global Ecovillage Network, or GEN, presents a new approach, offering examples and working models from around the world.
Well, Gaia Trust was formed in early 1987 with the idea of supporting persons and organizations who are helping to move the planet towards a more sustainable future.
And Gaia Trust has as its overall aim to support proactively projects, one of which is the development of eco-villages because they represent new structures of living. And the other is sustainable technologies because in order to continue to have a viable life within eco-villages, one has to, of course, have workplaces. And the rollover from that is essentially to start working with positive movements. Many of the techniques, like organic agriculture, like renewable energy, are reaching a stage where they are mature enough to start being combined with each other. And this is an eco-village principle. An eco-village is basically a village as we know it, but brought into a modern context. And they said that it should be human scale, that it should be full-featured, it should be able to continue indefinitely into the future, and it should be a harmonious interaction between people and nature. Harmony with nature in an eco-village is basically taking care of the surroundings where one is, just again taking care of the earth. We've got to minimize our use of resources, and we've got to take care of the energy that we're using. We've got to provide it in ways that are sustainable. So that is maybe the sort of the technological aspects of eco-village.
Well, I think in terms of what sustainability means in an eco-village, I think the basic concept is to live more lightly on the earth. Basically, the idea of sustainability is that we do not take more out of the earth than we give back.
An eco-village, for me, puts together a bit more than just a place where you live. It's not only where you live, but how you live as well. So it means the type of house you'll have, the responsibility you're willing to accept as well, as you don't just look for big government to do it for you, but you become part of the people who fulfill the dreams, their wants and the needs.
Because it's much more than just ecological sustainability. The words that we've come up with to define it is that it's a human ecology that's sustainable ecologically, economically, culturally and socially and spiritually.
I think the most fundamental characteristic of an eco-village is not the question of sustainability or location, but it's really the question of the social structure, the social fabric. It is recreating community in the sense that we used to know it in the more traditional village. That's why we use the word eco-village.
Another key element of eco-villages is that people are coming together with a purpose that's greater than their own self-fulfillment. This is a critical element also because it's really moving towards a new kind of purpose for human association. In the Western idea of family, we come together and the purpose of the family is really to fulfill the needs and wants and aspirations of the family members. And in eco-village, there's that, but then we go one step beyond that, which is there's also a deep aspiration to serve the larger world and to bring abundance and healing and positive influence in the larger culture. So the eco-village does not exist only for itself. but it exists also for the larger world. This is a crucial element of it.
The social aspects of Ecovillage are that there is an awareness of taking care of each other, there's awareness of our diversity as people, and there's an awareness of the need for a spirituality in people that is also an openness, again, if one liked, to diversity.
Spiritual sustainability is when we're in a situation or a place or a community where we feel like we are connected to something larger than ourselves, that we have a part to play in the larger scheme of life, and that in a sense is spiritually nurturing. It doesn't need to be religious or have any particular form or practice, but it's really a sense of that we're playing our part within a larger orchestra or symphony of life.
Because we actually live together, we share together, we work together, we create together. All of this is what will give us some kind of real vision for the future and real possibility of a manifestation that is harmonious, filled with love, and filled with the light and understanding of our role and place in the universe.
Eco-village projects can be found in all corners of the globe in a broad variety of cultural settings. Each has its own individual identity and purpose and were started for different reasons. The goal of the Global Ecovillage Network, formed by the Gaia Trust, has been to link the many different communities together so that they might share and exchange ideas, learning from each other's successes and failures, thus making a stronger contribution to the world at large.
Pinhorn got started in 1962. There were 3 founders, very much an unintentional community. As the community grew from this very small group at the beginning to over 300 people by the end of the 70s, there was certainly much more of a focus on an outward expression of nature, of planting the gardens, of working with food production. But it wasn't until the early 80s that the idea of an ecological community or an ecological settlement really began to take off.
When we first got here in this rural area in 1971 and tried to create the community that is now known as the farm, we found ourselves with a fairly educated population, but unable to sustain ourselves in the ways that we were trained. And so we were taking jobs in local agriculture and manual trades and construction industry for many years until it finally got around to where we could create our own cottage industries and begin to work within the community and bringing money back into the community without having to go out and find work. And today we have what is probably a pretty eclectic system. It's what I call an ecology of systems. And we have C corporations and S corporations and partnerships and nonprofit corporations and Madrigal-style cooperatives, all working together, finding out which system works best for a particular situation, and working in ways to further not only the economy of the farm community, but also the economy of the surrounding region. And I think it's pretty important that when a community begins, it looks to that base of support and tries to figure out how it's going to sustain itself and how it's going to sustain the next generation and the generation that comes after. In recent years, we've been getting a lot of interest from many parts of the world, particularly in the former Soviet Union and in Eastern Europe, where people for the first time in their lives are able to own land and think about building their own communities. And they're coming to us and saying, we would like to build ecological communities similar to what you've done here. To respond to this need, we've had to form an eco-village training center here at the farm, one which can hold courses in permaculture and sustainable gardening, sustainable agriculture, and sustainable energy systems, and economy and community glue and so forth. And in this process we've been learning how to do this, and now we're starting to see our prototype being replicated in different parts of the world. And so we're seeing eco-village training centers in Canada and Mexico, in Belize, Australia, the former Soviet Union, and Germany and Scotland, And all around we're seeing people get the idea that indeed what we really need to do is change the way that people relate to their habitat, the way that people live on the earth. We have to begin to live today like there will be a tomorrow, because if we don't, there won't.
We moved in October 1985. There were 7 couples or families living in where a space which was meant for 60 to 70 families. And it was originally this munition factory settlement, and it really was in bad shape because it had been 8 years empty. So then we began renovating around ourselves. There was only one building that was heatable. So everybody slept in that building and then moved to the others to renovate one after the other. But we built a lot of passive solar systems, both greenhouses onto the buildings, or we took away some of the roofs and put in what we call glass roofs. And behind those are now our seminars for our seminar program. The economic basis of our community, Lebensgarten, is mainly the seminar program. It makes jobs for roughly about a third of our members. Another third consult outside, consulting in things like planning, but also in mediation. Because we've had so much conflict resolution within our own community, we're good people for doing it outside. So we're now actually working in local authorities, where they're having feuds from one department to another, and in situations like schools and even in business. To keep that going, we have special times where we meet, like for our dance in the morning. We dance every morning, circle dance from 8:30 to 9 before we get started with the work. It's a great way of getting the right and the left brain going together. It's a great way of just easing up your body without overdoing it. And it's a great way of contact. We're completely full, 50 of them children, and we've got a waiting list of about 24 families.
When we decided about Crystal Waters, the idea was to have a place where people could fulfill hopefully all their basic human needs. And this being access to clean air, clean water, clean food, having adequate shelter, hopefully a very healthy shelter which will last for a long time, having the ability for social interaction, a place where they can also not so much find work, but useful activity, and hopefully paid useful activity, have safe play, have the possibility for freedom of spiritual expression. So I think it has to encompass all these basic needs, and that's what we really set out to do. We're a total mix. I think tolerance is practiced by most people. We are differing in ages, from those yet to be born to the oldest person being 93. Backgrounds varied from people working with their hands and people working more with their brains, people who have successfully learned to blend the two, 14 nationalities, many different languages, different belief systems and non-beliefs. I think it's a sort of a segment out of Australian society. In that way, it's fairly typical of what you would find in a new settled nation like Australia. Eco-villages, while they do consist of roads and buildings and infrastructure, they consist mainly of people. And people do create problems. We have our ups and downs. We don't totally agree. I wouldn't call every of our 200 people at Crystal Waters a close friend, but I hope as I can be friendly towards all of them. And I find places like Crystal Waters, eco-villages, can give people a sense of belonging, somewhere where we can establish a culture we're part of, a place where we can start putting our roots down again. And that's what it has done for me.
My name is Kai Hansen and I live in an ecovillage in Denmark. We started the project in 1986. So our focus from the beginning has been what would a better daily life be like? Because now we are 70 people living there and we intend to be 500 in 10 or 15 years. In Global Ecovillage Network, in this network, we are discussing what is an ecovillage, because we're pretty much saying if you want to live in a more sustainable way and you try to get people together to do this, to organize this, you are an ecovillage. But you don't have to stop there. An ecovillage, it has to develop. So we have to ask ourselves very often, what is an ecovillage? Are we moving in the right direction?
Ecovillages are social structures which must constantly deal with the complexity of human relationships. Every community in the Global Ecovillage Network has had to come to terms with how to govern itself and reach decisions that affect all members of the group.
The way we make decisions is on different levels. Some of the decisions, for example, if we wanted to further subdivide the land, would have to be a consensus decision. One less is not good enough. Everybody would have to agree. But if we change certain of our bylaws, 75% agreement is successful. And in the election of our members, we are quite happy if we get half+1 voting for a person. So what we try to do is to have a gradient in the number of people having to agree for a decision, depending on how we felt, how important it actually was. If it's very important, everybody has to agree. If it is less important, just a normal democratic process of half+1 seems to be what we are satisfied with at this stage.
We have a very interesting decision-making process. We do have a committee of management of about 10 people that are responsible for the day-to-day decisions. But any large decisions really need to be taken by a community meeting. And we have approximately 400 people in the local area that are part of the community. And depending on the type of decision, it depends on who is involved in decision making. But we try to do all of our decisions by consensus, and that's basically getting everyone to agree to go ahead with something. It doesn't mean that they necessarily think it's the best thing, but they do agree to support it happening. So they can still disagree with the decision, but we need consensus in order to really move ahead. We have some fallbacks in case consensus doesn't happen, and we do go to a majority rule. First of all, 90% majority, or failing that, kind of 75%. If it falls less than 75%, then we feel like there's something wrong with the decision. If not more than 75% are supporting it, then we may need to go back to the drawing board.
Although most eco-village projects are located in rural areas, many elements can be applied to city life as well. The ideas of shared or common facilities, as well as a community network of people working together with mutual interests and goals, can be applied to virtually any social setting.
So a co-housing is a concept where each family has their own home, and then you have common facilities. When you look upon it from the outside, it looks like an ordinary suburb. So it's the content that counts. It's the social relationships that are being created. It's the possibility for creating a different lifestyle.
Another possibility for the application of the eco-village concept is in the countries of the world now in a phase of rapid modern development. These projects have the potential to both improve and maintain the quality of life for the rural, agriculture-based cultures so rapidly disintegrating under the crush of unchecked development.
One of the most important things we can do is to strengthen people in the communities where they are. And this is particularly true in the less developed world, where the majority of people are still on the land. Ladakh is a very large area, about the size of Austria, on the Tibetan plateau, but it belongs politically to India. And I've been working there in Indian Tibet for the last 20 years, working with the local people to try to strengthen the villages so that they become eco-villages instead of people leaving en masse into the cities. We're trying to bring renewable energy technologies there, we're bringing financial activities there, and all of this work essentially is aimed at creating about 100 eco-villages up on the Tibetan plateau. What we've also been doing in Ladakh is to bring economic activity to the villages so that people can practice agriculture as well as another skill. We have a big crafts program where people are able to do things out of season when they don't have agricultural work to bring in some money. And it's a way of preventing that mass urbanization, leaving the rural economy for dependence in urban cities.
Eco-villages are in a position to serve as flagships for positive change. They provide a realistic and attractive alternative, one that can be adapted to any culture or geographic location.
I think for the next years, eco-villages will be places of experimentation. Although I don't feel like I'm living in an experiment, definitely not a social experiment, but there are new experiences we're all gaining every day. But experimentation in building materials, in the way we deal with our human waste, the way we farm, the way we grow our food, the way we capture water. I think that's what we will contribute from eco-villages which will go out into the wider world. Not so much as being copied, but being taken as a partial solution to many of the problems.
These are positive, grounded demonstration projects of how human beings can live in harmony with each other and in harmony with the earth, and begin to essentially birth an entirely new culture.
Communities are not necessarily easy, they're not necessarily utopian. Our community doesn't always function as it should. It's so diverse, there's so many considerations that have to be accounted for. And that's the challenge in a way, is always to have that vision, to work for it in some ways. If a project doesn't work, to talk about it, to reevaluate it, to find a new way to achieve it, and sometimes even to change that evolving vision so that it has more sense and is more connected to the earth and to people's real needs and to the needs of the species around us. Because in some ways on this planet we're very, very human-centered, and we need to connect a great deal more with the cosmos, with our universal values in some respect.
If we can establish these 50, 70 examples around the world, it will be so much more real than having drawings in a book or ideas across a microphone, where people can come and visit and live it and feel it and go away and say, I want that, I can do it, I can contribute to it, I'm willing to accept that responsibility for my own place and for my children's place as well.
Well, we've stumbled onto something here. It's about making every day count, as if it really did matter. We're about a habitat revolution. We're about changing the planet a little bit at a time, making it so that humans live in such a way that nature can live sustainably into the indefinite future. We're creating partnerships with animals and plants. We're creating partnerships with future generations. We're trying to live and do our daily tasks harmlessly, constantly aware that what we're doing is helpful to people who will come after us. And living in this way every day is an adventure.